Alright, just played against this player and they quit early, so hopefully that doesn't occur this time. Tuvasa the Sunlit versus Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons. We've got, yeah, pretty good start. We can keep that and get into Propaganda. We only have one source of coloured mana currently, but hopefully if we get into green, Enchantress's Presence would be really nice to get down on the field. Yeah, just played against this opponent and played against their Hapatra deck a few times and it can really go off, but they have a nasty habit of quitting when things aren't going their way, so just have to hope that that doesn't occur this time around. Propaganda will certainly slow them down. The Hapatra decks do tend to want to wipe the board with -1/-1 counters and swing in with lots of snakes. Green Sun Zenith won't do anything for us, unfortunately. We're really struggling on green mana currently. So we'll just get down that Propaganda and then wait for a fetch land to come out. If we could get into a green and white fetch land, that would be really good. Let's go over the commanders really quickly. Hapatra, Vizier of Poisons. When it deals combat damage, you put a -1/-1 counter on a creature. When you do, you create a snake token. It's a 2/2 for 2 mana. They, of course, can't swing in with the Essence Warden. We get into white, so that is actually okay because we can get rid of their commander here. Now, they can put -1/-1 counters on things, so they can quite easily get rid of that, I imagine. But they'll have to put it on their own commander as opposed to one of our creatures. So that's pretty good for us. Tuvasa the Sunlit is a Bant 1/1. It gets a buff for each enchantment we control, and whenever we cast our first enchantment each turn, we draw a card. So having access to an Enchantress in the command zone is really good. 3 mana goes into Cultivate for our opponent, and they are, of course, not going to swing in, so that is pretty much them done for the turn. And we are still eager to get into green mana. Once we've got green mana, I think we go for Tuvasa and then into Enchantress's Presence. I don't know. Worst case scenario, that gets removal out of their hand. But with Ghostly Prison and Propaganda, they now have to pay 4 generic mana in order to swing in, which is all of their mana currently. And with Hapatra decks, you tend to get lots of very small creatures. So it's not as though they can swing in with a huge 8/8 and pay the 4 and deal lots of damage to us. Flourishing Defences will get them a lot of tokens. Whenever a -1/-1 counter is put on a creature, you may create an Elf Warrior. Tundra is a means of getting us into Nevermore. It feels really bad casting all these enchantments without Enchantresses on the field, but there's not a whole heap else we can do without any kind of green mana. We'll just name their commander here. It is the cornerstone of the deck. So if they do manage to sacrifice their own Hapatra, at least they can't recast it as long as Nevermore is on the field. And all these -1/-1 counter effects won't actually come into effect with the Darksteel Mutation on the board, because it does remove abilities from the enchanted creature. Alright, our opponent has eventually decided to go for a Dusk Urchins, and then they've gone for Assassin's Trophy onto Ghostly Prison, which I like to think they're being kind to us, but I think I know better than that. They just want to be able to swing in more easily, I imagine, but we can now get into Enchantress's Presence. No, we can't. We can get into Tuvasa first, then Enchantress's Presence. That would be the correct way to do that. And that does, of course, gain our opponent a life. We go for Enchantress's Presence, which is another Enchantress spell for us. That will draw us a card, and now every time we cast an enchantment spell, we'll draw at least one extra card. Imprisoned in the Moon is another good thing for Hapatra. Now they can swing in with the Dust Urchin if they want to, but that will die. It'll draw them a card if they only have one -1/-1 counter on it. This thing is whenever it attacks or blocks, you put a -1/-1 counter on it. And when it dies, you draw a card for each counter on it. So effectively, our opponent would try and put 3 minus counters on it and draw 3 cards. But if they swing in, then yeah, when it attacks it'll get a counter, we'll block with this, and it will die and draw them a card. So not necessarily a terrible play to make. Our opponent has 3 cards in hand, now down to 2 thanks to Urborg. Luckily for them, we don't need black mana. If we can get into another green source, I'd be more happy, because as difficult as a basic is to remove, if they run Sinkhole or something like that, they can switch off our Reflecting Pool as well. So getting into another green source, maybe with Green Sun Zenith, although I think I'll go for an Enchantress effect with Green Sun Zenith. Maybe Eidolon of Blossoms. And then depending on what our opponent gets down, maybe a Detention Sphere. Is this on? Yeah, non-land permanent, so we might get rid of Flourishing Defences with that. We'll just see what happens here. Okay, they decide to swing in at us. And they could have something like Tainted Strike that gives it Infect. Okay, they are just going to pay. They get their token there. And I'm just going to block and hope that they don't have Tainted Pact or some kind of combat trick. If they do, it's not the end of the world. We can easily get Tuvasa out again. We at least have another Enchantress effect on the board. Okay, they're just going for the card draw by the looks of it. I'd rather they draw 1 card off of that than 3. And they got an Elf Warrior out of the deal from the Flourishing Defences as well. Coat of Arms. No wonder they wanted to get rid of the Ghostly Prison. We can fish things out of the graveyard, so I think it's well worth getting that Ghostly Prison back off a Sun Titan or something like that. But Detention Sphere is going on that Coat of Arms, I think. Well, Dryad Arbor is another green land. And yeah, I think we go for Detention Sphere. So Green Sun Zenith. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could Green Sun Zenith for 2 and get our Argothian Enchantress. Or go for 3 into X and get a 3 mana Enchantress. Let's just have a look and see. We don't need the extra mana held up. As long as we've got enough for Detention Sphere, we're okay. We could go for Verduran Enchantress. I think we'll do that. We'll go for Verduran Enchantress, and then we'll get down the Detention Sphere, and this will draw us 3 cards, if I'm thinking about this correctly. Yes, it certainly will. Exactly what you want to be doing in an Enchantress deck is being rewarded for casting enchantments and having enchantments enter the field. Aura of Silence can get rid of Coat of Arms if we want it to, so I think I'm actually going to get rid of the Flourishing Defences here, because that is a token generator for them. And Coat of Arms isn't particularly great without lots of tokens on the field. Not going to swing in with Tuvasa because they have an indestructible Hapatra on their side of the field. Definitely want to get down this Sterling Grove as well, so that they can't use their targeted removal on any of our stuff. And yeah, they just decide to scoop it. I'm going to assume, give our opponent the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to assume that they had 3 lands in hand or something like that. What were we going to draw into there? I mean, we had our draw engine on the go. We had, yeah, Journey to Nowhere, copy artifact. There was nothing to... Oh, we could copy artifact on Sol Ring, the only artifact in the deck. Eternal Witness gets back Ghostly Prison, so yeah, I think we had the game on lockdown there. We weren't necessarily going to get a heap of damage in. What we could have done was gone for Imprisoned on the Moon, or Imprisoned in the Moon, onto Hapatra to make it a land and get it out of the way over here, so that we could start swinging in with a big Tuvasa. So not the flashiest game, but I don't tend to have much luck with this opponent and this deck with games, to be honest. So, like I said in a previous video, this is it's the festive holiday season, so I'm struggling to put a lot of time into the games. As of when are we going to say? I think we said after the Christmas week. I'll be concentrating more on the actual quality of the games, but hopefully that shows off a bit of what Tuvasa and Hapatra want to do. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see all of you in the next one. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.